G'day watchers, welcome to Perth WAtch, your horology channel broadcasting from right here in Perth, Western Australia. Today I have the pleasure to present the latest piece from Axios watches. Now the first watch I reviewed from Axios, their debut piece, was the Ironclad, and that was a little bit of a spec monster. It really squeezed in a lot of high-end specs, including a Swiss movement for what was quite a reasonable price. Now this is their second project. What we have here today is the flagship model, which is kind of named in tribute of Admiral Nelson, the British admiral who was perhaps most famous for victory in the Battle of Trafalgar, and the watches in this collection will be named mostly after ships of the line that were involved in that famous naval battle. So today's piece comes in this rather practical watch roll, kind of leather watch roll. So without further ado, guys, let's flip the camera around and take a closer look at this. Alright guys, so here we have the packaging on the table. This watch roll, it's kind of nice, faux leather or leather with this suede strap and buckle. It doesn't really spin, that's pretty much a 1 on the spin rating. It's got too much friction. That's probably not a bad thing for a watch roll actually. Alright, so let's just get this open. So Axios symbol there, and on this side we have the spare links that I've removed, a bonus tropic rubber strap, and a warranty card. Nothing much more. I won't really open that up. So this tropic rubber is kind of interesting as an option. We'll go into that in a little bit later in the review. And there's the watch itself. Okay, so let's just put that aside and show you guys this piece in a little bit more of a close-up. So guys, this is the Axios Flagship Defiance. So the Defiance denotes the colorway here, which is black with a bit of gilt finishing on the dial. So the Defiance was actually one of the ships of the line during the Battle of Trafalgar. That's where they've come up with the name of the range of watches in this particular collection. And the full MSRP will be $499 USD. Check out the links in the description below if you want to find out more about the watch. Okay, so first up, as I always do, guys, let's talk about the movement in here. So Axios tend to push the boundaries a little bit, and they certainly did with their first watch. This one is less so, but it is a Miyota 9000 series. So 9015, you've seen this movement many times before. All the specs down the left of screen there. And in this case, it does have a date. Pleasingly, they have actually gone for a black wheel with white writing, so respected them for actually doing a color match wheel, at least for this black dial. The rated accuracy for the 9015, you can see on the bottom left there. In this case, this is running very slightly slow, about -2 to 3 seconds per day in the 1 week that I have had this running so far. Okay, so that's the movement. Let's talk about the case now. So what we have here is a case that is actually 39 millimeters. So I'll show you the side profile. You can see that the bezel actually overhangs the case slightly. So the bezel itself is 40 millimeters, and that's really what you consider, right, in this watch. So it's really effectively a 40 millimeter watch. The thickness is 13 millimeters to the top of the crystal there, from the bottom of the case back to the top of the crystal. The lug width is 20 millimeters, for classic 40 bezel 20 millimeter lug width. And the lug to lug distance is pleasingly tight. It is actually 46.5 millimeters between my thumbs there. So it's pleasingly not that big. Overall weight of this watch on this metal bracelet is 140 grams with the few straps that I have removed from this particular watch. Now, of course, if you have a fuller size wrist, then it's going to be slightly heavier. Okay, finishing. So the bezel, hopefully you can see the bezel there. It's matte and brushed on the bezel. The case-wise is longish little brushing on the top of the lugs, transitioning to vertical brushing on the side of the case. Okay, and interestingly, the bottom of the case, the bottom of the lugs, is actually polished. There is a polished bevel Okay, so right there you can see there's a polished top bevel there. And if you look at the case back itself, the case back is circular brushing with a fairly nice etching of the Victory. So, you know, that's the Victory flagship, which is Admiral Nelson's flagship at the Battle of Trafalgar. That's really what that is denoting. Okay, so fairly nicely done. Screw down solid case back with screw down sign crown with the Axios signing there. Hopefully you can see that. The water resistant rating they've gone for in this watch is 200 meters. Okay, so let's talk about the dial now. So the dial here, hopefully that can be appreciated in these shots, is gloss black dial with peripheral printed chapter ring. You know, it's got some printed details down the bottom half of the dial, but it has an applied gold tone logo and gold tone indices, as well as the date window at the 6 o'clock position. So, you know, it really is fairly nicely done. It's got polished gold tone rectangular hands and kind of like a paddle rectangular seconds hand. Lume wise, it's C3X1 Superluminova, that's what they've stated, along with a slight splash of BGW9. If you look at the 3, 9, and 12 indices, that's actually split, and the inner part is actually BGW9. And of course, you can appreciate the lume shot right here, which I'll put up for you guys to see how it actually glows in the dark. Interesting lume signature, you know, to say the least, with that splash of color, splash of BGW9 in there, and you can see it's also a full lume bezel. Okay, so around the dial is a 120 click unidirectional dive style bezel, right? That's really what you're going to expect here. In this case, it is actually sapphire covered, so you know, hopefully you can see how it reflects. There's a bit of gloss on the cover of the bezel there, so that's a sapphire covered bezel. Let's have a listen to it now. Quite clunky, 5, 10 clicks, right? Very solid, you know, pretty much no backplay whatsoever. So 20 clicks, okay? So 120 click, very, very solid feeling, I have to say, and really nice, makes a nice clunk whenever you know, find one of the clicks here. So very nicely done, I would have to say. If you like solid bezels, solid feeling bezels, this definitely, you know, kind of meets that criteria. On top of that is also something that is pretty nice. They've gone for a box edge sapphire, so hopefully you can appreciate that there is a box edge to this, you know, lightly domed sapphire here. Very nicely done. I really like looking at, you know, sapphire crystals like this one. You know, slight distortion at extreme views here. Okay, so that's the case there. Let's move on to the bracelet, which is also, you know, a point of interest, I have to say. This is a nice 7-piece per link beads of rice style bracelet, right? It's polished. The beads of rice are polished, and then it's got brushing along the side here, right? You're getting solid end links, no less, as well as, hopefully I can show you guys, you know, there you go, screw link adjustment on this particular bracelet there. Well done for pushing that in. It does taper from 20 to 18 millimeters, you know, at the narrow portion here. Clasp wise, right, brush, Axios logo there, push button release with solid deploying arms, and you know, no less than 6 points on the micro adjustment there. So a good range of micro adjustment as well, not just 3 or 4. The Tropic rubber, I'm not gonna kind of swap it in live here. You know, it's all right. It's fair quality, this kind of Tropic silicone rubber. I'll put a wrist shot in here for you guys to see how it might look like, you know, on the wrist here for this Tropic rubber. All right, and then put that aside, and I'll put a wrist shot now of this watch on the beads of rice. And so here we go, guys. The Axios Flagship Defiance, right? Defiance for this colorway, automatic dive watch on my 17 centimeter wrist, because it's actually a fairly nicely sized, only 40 millimeters, and actually fairly tight at 46.5 millimeter lug to lug. It fits pretty darn well. It very comfortably fits on the wrist like mine, which, you know, my wrist isn't that big. So I think most guys should be able to carry this fairly nicely. 13 millimeter height, so, you know, not too high on the wrist, and a pretty darn nice bracelet, I have to say. Okay, so guys, what have I found to be great about this? Look, I think it's another great package from Axios. This is their second collection, and they've really, again, done a pretty darn good job. You're getting the Miyota 9000 movement in here, a pretty good quality case, I have to say, right? Pretty nicely finished, superbly done. A great box sapphire crystal, 200 meter water resistant, and a really quite good bracelet. I really enjoy this bracelet and what they have packed in here. It really looks good on the wrist. It's not the spec monster that the Ironclad was, right? The Ironclad put in the Solita movement and all that, but this is a far more original design, right? The Ironclad was a sub-homage. This one, right, I'm getting a slight 50 fathoms wide vibe here. Some of the limited edition 50 fathoms looks like this, but really it isn't exactly like any other watch that I'm aware of. And if it does copy something, well, it's not a common watch that this copies. Right, superb case design. Really like how they've done it. Particularly that side profile. Look at how how slim those lugs are. I like that, and how there's three elements. You're getting that case back taking some element of the height. You're getting the side of the case being quite slim, and then the bezel and the box sapphire taking up the rest of the height. I really like how that's broken up on the side. It really has a very vintage feel to it. The gloss style is also no slouch. It's a pretty good looker. They've done it pretty nicely with the gilt gold tone on the black. That I think that sits very nicely, and it's got a overall just gorgeous look with that box sapphire on top. I think this is a great looking watch. That's really what I found while wearing this in the last week. It does get comments and it does look great. What are the weaknesses? Well, I think nothing much for me to complain about. I think, everything is pretty much as desired on this watch. The only thing I would say that at the full MSRP of $500 or $499 USD, that may cause reservations among some people. I'm sure at the Kickstarter price, this would be quite a compelling piece. If you're not already fatigued of dive watches, yes, this is a dive watch. It is another dive watch, but I think this one, just stands out a little. It's not just another typical sub-homage. It is actually something rather special. Okay, guys, so that's my thoughts on this particular watch. Let's flip the camera around now for the wrap-up. So there you go, guys, my review of the Axios Flagship. I think there are a lot of positives in this watch, even though it is another dive watch, and I know that people are perhaps starting to get a bit of dive watch fatigue, but this one at least I reckon offers something different. So let me know what you think, guys, in the thoughts and comments below. Guys, if you enjoy my videos, do consider subscribing. New content every week, always aiming to be objective and unbiased about all things horology. Thank you again for sticking with me, and as always, I'll catch you guys again next time.